going to be talking about jazz and music and spirituality. Here we go! Mike, you gotta
Hello.
get in the scene.
Am I in the scene now?
Bring your chair
This way.
this way. Up close and personal.
Up close and personal.
Yes.
What's
we
up,
go.
everybody?
There we go.
Are we here? Let me loosen this tie up.
Yeah, you don't need to have that tie.
No.
So Mike just came, he was performing. Where were you performing at?
I was at the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe in Grosse Pointe.
Yep.
And I was playing with my students. We opened up for the Charles Bowles Quartet that plays there every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And the board was there and some of the staff and everything. So it was a good night. And now I'm here with you.
I know. We picked you up. We got to see some of the
Yes.
kids performing. They were cute. They were good. They did.
They are.
And they looked really excited.
Mm-hmm.
They were all like smiling, especially I don't know what that kid's name is who plays the guitar in the back. He was like
That's
smiling
Chris,
the whole
yeah.
time. 'Cause
Chris Jewett.
he was excited.
Yeah.
He was excited. Sarah, who's on? Oh, hey. My vocal teacher is on.
Hi, vocal teacher.
She teaches me Hindustani classical singing. She's really good.
I'm gonna try something. I feel like I'm like.
Are you good? Are you comfortable?
It's okay. There we go.
There you go. Good. So before we talk, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Who am I?
All I put on that little thing was Mike Monford, Detroit jazz saxophonist, but you're so much more than that.
Okay, what am I? Okay, first of all, once again, I'm Mike Monford. I'm a Detroiter.
Yep.
I'm a saxophonist. I'm an educator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a jazz historian. I'm a father.
Yep.
I'm a grandfather. I'm a friend, a community person, and a lover of the arts, period. That kind of sums it up. It can get complex once you
Delve into it.
dive into each aspect of me. But that's been me, to tell you the truth, since 3 weeks after high school.
Wow.
My first daughter was born like 3 weeks after I graduated from high school. So the fatherhood music part was there. You know what I mean?
Started right away.
Yeah, it started right away.
Did you feel like that was a hard thing to balance?
Yeah, it was. I talk to my students about that all the time because I try and keep it, as we all say, 100 with my students, and they talk to me about everything. I'm a high school teacher, so they'll ask me about my experience as a high school student and everything, and I share it with them that it was still a beautiful experience, but to try and make some other choices. I don't even want to say better choices, because I don't think I made a mistake becoming like a teenage father, as they say. That was part of my journey.
Yeah.
That was part of my path. But I do share that with my students and tell them to give yourself a little bit more time, because I was developing as a young man and as a community person, but learning how to be a father at the same time. I kind of had to just jump in there and adapt to my environment.
That's oh, hey Christina. She said, "Look at you guys looking all cute."
Hey Christina.
Missing you, boo. Yeah, that's gotta be tough. But I think being just pushed into fatherhood at that age probably humbles you,
Right.
and grows you as well.
Absolutely. Hey, you guys will see me drinking my water.
I saw you with yours. And I
The
was like,
famous mason jar from down south. All the way from my grandma.
Nothing goes to waste.
Yeah, but all the new Detroit people, I thought it's a hipster thing.
No, it's not hipster. It's old school, and it still works. And if I can feel this a minimum of 4 times a day, I'm happy. You know what I mean? And it usually happens once I get home. I'll drink one before I leave in the morning. And then at work, it varies depending on how busy I am.
Starting your day with water is game changer.
It's very important. Very, very important.
I keep mine. My students always see me with this. I'm just teaching and walking, and I put ginger and lemon in it, and then I just keep filling it up
Water is life.
Water is life. This is true. My teacher said thumbs up.
Oh,
So,
you playing my music? I just
finally sunk in.
oh, look at that. Well,
Look
Sonia
at
said,
this.
what did she say? The music sounds dope. It's his music,
Thank you.
His album.
his album. Where can you tell them where to find your album? Because it's a dope album.
Where to find my album? Okay, you can find it on all online and streaming stores. So you can hear it, like if you want to sample, you know, and hear some of it, like on YouTube. And then you can also go to iTunes and purchase it.
Do that
I
support.
always encourage people to support. The name of the CD is Mike Monford, Monford. Everybody tries to spell it like the high school,
Yeah.
Monford.
You're
And the
like,
name of the CD is Perseverance.
Why did you pick that name?
I picked Perseverance because of what I was going through at the particular time in my life. And then I was trying to reflect on my culture and everything, as far as like my African American and Native American background and everything. The title track for the album, Perseverance, is based off of African Moorish scale. So I
Yeah.
tried to go as far back in my, you know, like
Which, the
Kemet,
Frisian
Egypt.
scale? Frisian scale?
Yes.
Right.
Yep. I tried to go pretty far back and base the song off of that. But you can find it online. Go purchase it.
Please do.
Spread
I'll
the
link
word.
it too. I'll link it. My teacher said, can he play something? He will at the end.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
eventually.
at the end. So let's get into the topic.
Okay.
We're talking about jazz and music in general and spirituality. So I guess maybe you could talk a little bit about the history of jazz here in the United States and its connection with, or it being a spiritual experience.
All right. Wow, where do I start?
Because,
Okay.
and the reason why I picked this, the reason why I thought it was important was because, you know, now that we've been playing and we're, you know, putting our album out soon, I've just been thinking about the spiritual aspect and the experience of music making and the
Right.
experience of being in a group, in a space, and allowing what is divine to manifest through you, through your instrument.
Right. Okay. Jazz and spirituality. It starts from the beginning, really. When you speak of jazz, it's recognized as an African American art form now, of course. Which means you have to kind of you have to start with the people and everything. Jazz began its journey well before the North American slave trade, because we had our culture and everything in Africa and in our indigenous times. Of course, when the North American slave trade happened, we had different stops before we got to America, the islands, Puerto Rico, Brazil, different spots. So all of these people of African descent were in these different spots. So when we got to America, all of that was still in us. You know what I mean? It was in our spirit because it was a part of our culture. It's not like it was just this fad or whatever. So when we got here, we were expressing it through field hollers, you know, out in the field, field hollers, work songs and everything. And then that developed into the, you know, the blues, of course. Of course, gospel, spirituals, we sang those in the fields. Negro spirituals, as they call them. So we've done the passage from Africa to America now. We're in slavery. We're singing our songs, doing field hollers out in the fields. The Delta Blues is born and everything. So that goes on for a while. Like eventually, with those African indigenous rhythms, jazz is formed. We didn't call it jazz when it came out, you know what I mean? It was just a certain rhythm and a certain feel. And what that was, it was a mixture of Africa and everything else that was here
Yeah.
in America. You know what I mean? And that's how jazz was born. So it's the African foundation with other layers in there, but heavy African rhythms, syncopated rhythms, you know, which like in a lot of European classical music is just like straight 4/4 time. So you got a lot of different time signatures with our music. So once we're in America and we start developing these sounds, you got people in different regions of the United States. One place that I have to bring up was in New Orleans called Congo Square. That was an area in the city where they allowed the slaves to go and play their drums and do their traditional music and tribal dancing on Sundays. That was the only day the drums and everything could come out. Now
That's
you're in a
interesting,
city.
on church day.
Yeah, on church day. So you're in a city like New Orleans with Spaniards, French, you know what I mean? Different cultures, and it's mixed with this African culture. So that's one way to kind of describe how the music started developing. The sound started coming out of there. Then once we started migrating up north and everything, you know what I mean? It took on a whole nother aspect. It would take me like probably 20 shows to go through all of
To
that
go
history.
through the history of it.
But what you want to understand is African American music.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm very proud of that, being African American and everything. And it's a part of my culture. Growing up, I learned about different cultures. And I know that's another topic we're discussing.
Yeah.
But each culture that I learned about, you learned about their language, the food they ate, the music they listened to, the clothes that they wore. You know what I mean? And when I was learning this, I wasn't getting anything from African Americans in school and everything, other than I was a slave, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
they were teaching, like, in the school systems, other cultures.
yeah, other cultures and not my culture, I guess.
Which is everywhere. That's every school.
Right. It's every school. So what I realized later on, I didn't know at the time, I didn't need anybody to teach me my culture. I was actually living it at the time. You know what I mean? But nobody actually sat down and said, this is your culture and everything. It is a culture-based music, jazz, and it's a spiritual music because it's not ego-driven. You know what I mean? It's spirit-driven, and it's really about expressing your soul, and it has a tradition also. You're carrying a tradition when you perform jazz and everything.
I like that you call it that, spirit music. Because I'm thinking of, like, Southeast Asian culture and music in that region. And, you know, when you go to certain concerts, they're spiritual concerts. That's what they are. And you go there and you get into the space, into some zone. Right. And it's as if you're in some other world. I didn't know that the drumming on Sundays in drumming Sundays in New Orleans. Drumming on Sundays.
Congo Square.
Yeah.
It's
amazing oral history.
Louis Armstrong Park now. That's what they call it now.
But yeah. Oh, so it has a different name.
Yeah.
So what happens there now?
You know, it's different. It's music still in different events, but it's a park, like a historic park and everything to recognize Congo Square.
Noni said, I love the term spirit music.
All right.
I mean, you talked about, you know, you're living this culture. And no one taught it to you, like, specifically, okay, this is Black culture, this is African American culture, this is the history of such and such. So at what point in your life did you start learning those things as actual, tangible things, as opposed to, you know, you're experiencing it, but maybe you don't know specifically about it?
Right.
And I'm guessing probably your music teachers had a lot to do with that.
Absolutely. That was high school.
Shazra's on. Hey, Shazra.
Peace, everybody, again. So that started happening in high school. What happened like my junior year, there were, a lot of masters around here, old jazz masters. I hooked up with a gentleman named Dr. Teddy Harris Jr. You will hear him over and over. His picture is on the piano. Can you get it?
Yeah, I go get it.
I gotta show it to everybody.
You were, honestly, Mike, listening to you and getting to know you this past year, I feel like you were extremely blessed with the people that you were around.
I was. And I was
and
blessed.
Your students are extremely blessed to be around you.
Thank you. Really, what I'm doing with them is just sharing and giving back what's been given to me. Because, like I said, in jazz, it's an art form, and you pass it on. You don't hold on to it. So this
you can bring it up closer.
That's Dr. Teddy Harris Jr. And I won't talk too long about him, but I have to. He was one of the principal arrangers for Motown Records. And then he was the Supreme's principal arranger for like 15 years or so. Great arranger, great saxophonist, great composer, band leader, teacher, mentor. 11th grade, I started sneaking in jazz clubs around here.
Okay.
And I begged
city
him.
Or community jazz
in the
club,
city.
Right? Okay.
And I begged him to take me on as a student. It took about 3 months. Finally, when he took me on, I wasn't just learning the saxophone. He started teaching me the history of the music. I had kind of gotten to it a little, but he really
pushed you into it.
Yeah, pushed me into it and really made me aware of the long history with it, and then the tradition. And he explained that he was giving me music lessons, but he was saying he was being like the griot and passing on this information and this knowledge to me.
Yeah.
And I had an assignment and a responsibility given to me right away to do the same thing one day. Yeah. To pass it on, to carry on the tradition and everything. Yeah. So that's when I really became aware of it, and he had me go back to like ragtime, Jelly Roll Morton, Scott Joplin, stride piano, boogie woogie piano, and check out New Orleans music. Back to the
beginning.
Yeah, back to the beginning, and then up to the present.
Reem said, "It is interesting that Mike said snuck into jazz clubs, but now you can be a youngster and have access to those spaces." Awesome way to describe it.
That's a good point. That a lot of the stuff that I was doing, it wasn't just me. We were breaking down barriers to open up doors for Trunino and some of these young guys. They actually have jazz program, like my students playing at the Dirty Dog with me tonight, and then the Detroit Jazz Fest has the student programs and everything. So they actually have programs now
for students.
Students where I'll call it my University of the Streets. Back then, that's what I called it, because I actually made a music conservatory within my community and everything. I took $20 lessons at their houses. Yeah. And I studied out of the same books that they had in the conservatories, and it,
Noor's doing their $20 lessons. That's what they are.
So it's really about getting the information and everything at the end of it. It's about, it doesn't matter where you get it from. You want to get the information and apply it.
And I think that's one of the important things. So you mentioned like Trunino, and there's all these young kids here. And I think it's important to highlight that they're young black boys who are educated and just full of love and spirit and really pushing this tradition through. Earlier, Christina mentioned oral history, and I think it's important that that's being passed on to them. And I see that because in Trunino, he was teaching at your summer camp. Tariq's teaching Noor. Like, these kids are teaching younger kids, and they're young themselves. They're 19. Yeah. They're like, 19, 18, 20. They're amazing, talented souls, yeah.
Yeah, they're,
And to be able to learn from elders.
Right.
Is a different experience.
And they're already carrying on the tradition. You see, they're sharing with their peers. A lot of my peers share with me, guys that were the same age as me or a little bit older. Maybe they were playing a little bit better, or they, were just a little further along in their development and everything. But yeah, it's a tradition. It's a culture. I'm gonna keep saying that over and over. And I love pop music and everything else, but it doesn't have a tradition.
Really, though?
I do. I listen. I was a DJ, so all music. I don't really criticize publicly.
Okay.
Because I'm a public figure and everything, but
I guess
to each his song.
What would you find the difference then?
It doesn't out of
most
pop
diplomatically
music,
speaking. What out of
from
pop
music and
or
jazz,
even just what's playing on the radio, what's like mainstream nowadays that's being marketed to people. What's the difference? Because for me, I feel like the difference is it's not spirit music.
Right. It's not spirit music. The lyrical content, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't really feed the soul. It's ego driven, and it's just really like it's for marketing.
Yeah.
They're more concerned with marketing and not really reaching the community and the people, and that's what music used to do. I'm not here to change the music industry. I'm here to do my part. You know what I mean? And keep it moving. A lot of my students, and I've played in the industry, you know what I mean, with different people. But
Christina said, "Expose it, Mike."
Nah, can't do that, sis.
My teacher
Gotta
said,
be smart.
"It's important. It's important job of a teacher to generate interest in younger generations and keeping the tradition alive." Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, you're not gonna expose it, but.
It's already exposed, really, because it's played on the radio. So, like, I tell people, don't make stuff too complex.
Yeah.
Use simplicity. Life has a tendency to make things complex. Yeah. If you listen to the music and you hear the lyrical content, and if you're an adult and you have sense, you can kind of...
You could tell.
Yeah, you can tell. Does it feel good when you listen to it? How does it feel?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what Sonia
and
I
you
were talking
play it
about
around your children?
No.
Would you listen to it with your grandmother? When I was listening to hip hop, I was a DJ at first. Everybody, not getting too far off the subject. I was DJ Eminem. Yeah.
What?
Junior high through high school.
DJ Eminem.
Yep. Cause I come up in the hip hop culture before sax and stuff. I DJ'd from like the mid '80s to like the early '90s. Okay. But I was listening to everything, of course. Yeah. And my grandmother used to listen to hip hop with me. She listened to Public Enemy and KRS-One because whatever they were saying, it made sense. You know what I mean? So I didn't have anything to hide from her. Some of the records that were harsh and had cussing or vulgar that I had to purchase, I just didn't play it around her.
But even the ones that had cussing they were part of the political and social movement. Mm-hmm. Like KRS-One was part of that. Their lyrics were, it doesn't matter if you had swearing in it, it was pushing a certain message that was still at its core positive.
Yeah. So that's how she heard NWA eventually, and of course, was turned off at first. But I had to explain to her.
Playing F the Police in front of her.
Oh, yeah. But we were going through that at the time in Detroit. Yeah. The police were grabbing us by our high top fades and slamming us on the car. And so once I explained that while we were saying F the police, she was like, oh, I know what I mean? I kind of get it. Still be careful, baby, but I get it. Yeah. But I could play NWA around. I didn't play 2 Live Crew around her. You've heard of them, right?
Right.
You use common sense. Mike Monford wouldn't be standing here now if I played 2 Live Crew around. True.
I mean, you have to be smart about what you're promoting, especially if you're a public figure. You're trying to elevate your community and so forth.
Right.
But I mean, even if there's swearing, I don't think swearing is the issue. I think it's what is the essence of that music.
Right.
Where is it coming from? And so NWA, it's coming out of a struggle. So you're speaking to that struggle.
Right.
And I think that's why jazz and blues specifically hits the soul, because it's coming from, telling the stories of oppression and of struggle. And it's interesting because Ismail had a post on his Facebook about, what exactly did you post? Is blues for white people, or can white people play blues? That was the question, right? And it was interesting because it sparked a lot of conversation. But I think we can't deny the fact that that's its origin. You can't take out its culture. That's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing music, what's that process like? Or when you're creating music?
What's my process?
What's your process? And how are you tapping into, your experiences or your emotions at the time?
Usually, like,
Hi, Mama.
when I create music or when I'm composing, an idea comes to me. Sometimes it's because of a feeling or an experience I'm having. Sometimes because of a person that I'm around. People write songs for people all the time.
Yeah.
It just pops out of nowhere. It's magic because it's a spiritual thing. It's like this magical 1 or 4 bar phrase just falls out of the sky, and you start humming it.
Mm-hmm.
You start playing around with it, and then you expand on it. I hear a lot of my music in the middle of the night when it's quiet, like if I wake up at 3 o'clock or whatever. And I hear a lot of music just when I'm alone in my thoughts, bike rides. I composed like 9 new compositions last year, and I was riding my bike. If I heard the idea and I wasn't at home where I had the manuscript paper, I would pull my phone out and record
it.
Yep, come back to the studio and expand on it. And I may not finish it right then. I'll keep coming back to it and just keep coming back to it until the tune is finished and everything. Because sometime other ideas will come, but at least I don't lose it. So it's really getting a clear space so that I can hear myself and so the spirit can come to me and everything. And I put it on the phone. It goes from the phone onto manuscript paper.
Because you can actually read music.
Right, and write music.
So for us, we're like, we don't know. Just play it. Just play it.
Right, and that's cool. And then I start charting it. I'm not super fast, but I can get it done. And then I have 2 people that help me out, Vincent Chandler and Cassius Richmond.
Okay.
They help me with the actual chords and everything. But that's my process. It comes from me from the sky. It's magic. Music is magic.
Music is magic from the divine. Christina said that's so important. It's not always about creating a finished product. It's about the process of inspiration.
Yeah.
And Reem says, what narrative,
like
feeling do you want? I know. What narrative or feeling do you want to get across from most of your music? Oh, that's a good question. What do you want to get across from your music?
What do I want to get across from my music?
Yeah, when you're sharing it.
I want to do my job as a musician, which is to play good music.
You got to be in the screen.
Okay, I got to be in the screen.
But you
I just see the writing. Okay.
But they see your face.
All right. When I'm playing music, I want you to feel good. I want you to like the music, but I want it to feel good.
No story.
I want your body to feel good when you hear it. I want you to get some mental and spiritual food from it, so you're nice.
That's what it does.
Full.
That I've been listening. So the album that we are putting out soon, we have it on CD and it's almost all mixed. And I've been listening. It's in the car, so I've been listening to it nonstop on my way to work, on my way home, every single day. And I listened to your solos. specifically on Blue,
Mm-hmm.
and just how, and Ismail's solo on the beginning of the Return, and how playing certain notes and in a certain melody make you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where it just, I can't help but cry, or I can't help but like have goosebumps, or I can't help but feel something because the body reacts to that sound.
That's what music does.
My teacher said, yes, I agree with what he's saying. It's like talking to your soul. Yep. You were saying earlier that like you feel like it's spirit or something is coming to you.
Right.
Do you ever feel like there are things in your life that may block that from happening, or times in your life where you feel like that connection isn't there?
Yeah. It's funny you brought that up. Oh my goodness. Within the last, I would say the last couple years, that just started happening. And I think it's because I have more on my plate as far as like a father and a teacher and everything.
Yeah.
So what I find now is, okay, I'm going to give them my time. I have to set times aside where I kind of just zone and block the world out to actually get into that space where it was there all the time before. But like in the last year or two, a couple of times I was like, man, like what's up?
On?
Yeah, what's going on? What it was, I gave so much out spiritually and everything. And it's like, well, it's there. You just need a few minutes to get centered and get into your thing. But I'd rather give the students and the children a lot of my energy because I get so much of that back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the first time that's happened within the last year or so where it felt like I couldn't get into it. But I found out it was right there. Yeah. It was just me getting in the right space and everything. It hadn't gone anywhere. I had went somewhere.
Do you feel like there was a difference between you playing here, because you were born and raised here, right? And then you went to New York. You played in New York for some time, and then you moved back. So do you feel like there was a difference? Because I'm sure when you were in New York, you were playing all the time.
Right.
You know, and now you're still playing all the time, but because you're teaching and you've got family, it doesn't take up every minute of your time.
Right.
Was there a difference in how you felt? Or is there a difference in the cities even?
Yeah, it's a big difference in the cities. This is home, for one.
Oh.
Peace, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, it was a big difference.
We'll get to your questions later.
But, they're two different cities. Of course, New York is like the jazz capital. One of the jazz capitals. Detroit is also one.
Yeah.
But New York, as far as the business side of things, that's where all the record companies are. Yeah. It's 1 million jazz clubs, small
but
clubs.
Where's the soul?
Where's the soul? The soul is in the D. The soul is in the D. Keep in mind, New York is a city that people from all around the world are trying to move to. Yeah. So it's almost unfair, I tell people, because you got a city where everybody's trying to move there. But Detroit fuels the music industry, not just jazz, but the music industry, period. So if you go to New York, you're going to run into a bunch of Detroit musicians anyway. And we do have soul here. This is a special city. I could go on and on and on about New York. I don't want to do that necessarily.
Don't do that. Don't.
Go on and on about Detroit. The water here. The waterfront. The vibration here is different. It's soulful here. There is, people say we're angry or we're on the edge or this or that. But we're also passionate about our city. We also love our city. So you got all of that wrapped up into one. Yeah. So New York gets blessed every time a Detroit musician goes to live there or plays because they get to experience some of that soul and everything.
Right. I said I didn't know that New York was a jazz capital. How about New Orleans though? Sonia had a question earlier. She said, "What are your thoughts on improvisation, so improv, regarding jazz.
Well, that's like a big part of jazz with the improv and everything.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah. That's most of the music
That's
out here.
most of the music. Like with jazz, of course, you have to study and get your chops up so you can actually move around on your instrument good, and that's what it takes to really improvise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a big part of the music, the improvisation. But if you think about it, jazz is life because you have to be able to adapt really quick. Like in jazz, you're always adapting to these hard chord changes, to this hard melody and everything. Difficult,
and time changes.
Time signature. So same thing in life. Once again, getting back to it being spiritual music and everything.
How do you, I guess, when you're in the middle of a show or even recording, I was just thinking, like, sometimes when you play, I'm just like, where does he come up with this? Like, especially, like, the two solos that stick out to me, I mean, you always play well, but the two solos that stick out to me is that one time we played Return here and you were going ham. When you're, just blowing so hard, and it was so good. And on Blue, while the recording, it's interesting, because when I listen back to that song, it makes me feel like there's a story in that entire solo. Mm-hmm. Like there's an emotional story that's being shared from the beginning to the end. So, and part of me is like, wow, that I feel like you are, like, as a vocalist, I might be using words and I might be using my voice to convey some sort of emotion. But you're able to do that.
Thank you.
Through notes. I mean, you gotta be really good to be able to do that. 'Cause, I mean, I'm struggling with that in guitar. That's something that I've been practicing.
Right.
It's a lot of practicing of scales and playing around with things. So I guess, how do you get to that point where it can flow?
It's a lifelong study. One cool thing about jazz, or just any art form, you get to be a student for life.
Yeah.
So I've been playing the sax now, let me see, over 20 years.
You're about to age yourself now.
Yes, I am about to age myself. Proud of it. So
you said you're a grandfather, but
right.
I mean, you were a father young.
So over 20 years now as a saxophonist, like 25. So it takes a lot of practice, with the instrument, but then it also takes a lot of years of developing as a person. And I was taught by spirit musicians. I was taught to put my soul through the horn, like play from my heart.
Yeah.
So, of course, at 19, when I was learning, I could pour through the horn whatever I had experienced at that time. And I could only express myself a certain kind of way because I was young. I was still insecure, still shy. So even my solos then, they were sincere.
Yeah.
So if it sounded like I was nervous or shaky or insecure,
that would come through.
Yeah, I'd rather push that through and be sincere. So now, at this point in my life, several things have
I would hope several things have changed.
So a lot of different emotions, from happiness, sadness, depression, ups, downs.
But realizing that all of those things are a positive part of your life, whether they're up or down, you're gaining something.
So I tell people I don't like using the word mistakes anymore. It was
just choices that you
made. Choices, and a part of my journey and everything. So of course at this age and with all of my lifelong experiences and travels, it's more stuff coming out the horn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then what I try and do, I'm sure other musicians try and do, I really try and express every human emotion possible. So where I cut off with some musicians, it's easy to share the known and stuff you're familiar with, but I like to share the unknown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's when you get into artists like Sun Ra, Albert Ayler,
Yeah.
Ornette Coleman. They call it avant-garde.
Yeah.
Or some people say it sounds far out, or I don't know where the beat
Yeah.
is or know what they're playing. And I'm like, well, how many times do you feel like that in life?
That's true. I mean,
you know what I
that's
mean?
that's deep.
Where you
That's
just
deep.
kind of, yeah, and that music has that. But a lot of the Western music, we just want to hear what we're already familiar with.
Yeah.
So if you do hear something that's far out or cosmic or
Yeah.
kind of wild,
You don't know what to do with it.
yeah, it's like they straight away, because now you not just bopping your head. I still bop my head to it.
Yeah.
Because it still has a pulse to it, because I'm looking at it from a spiritual aspect and everything. And really, when you get into playing the unknown or avant-garde or far out music, you're really getting closer to our indigenous stuff, to tell you the truth, our African stuff, because you're speaking in tongues and you're doing chants and everything, you know. So
Chanting, I think, is a really beautiful aspect that we've lost. Okay, we've got some questions. What places would you recommend to go to listen to jazz music in Detroit on a Friday or a Saturday?
on a Friday or Saturday,
Sonia said jazz is life. Great perspective.
What's up, Sonya? What's up, everybody? I'm
Come on,
running
Sonya,
my
come
mouth.
But that's what it's for. You're the
Kinda,
guest.
I'm chilling.
Last
I'm looking
week-
in the camera some, but I'm really trying to dig in my brain. Some good places on a Friday or Saturday. You want to go to Burt's Marketplace on a Friday. That's
No.
John Douglas is there. Awesome trumpeter, and you'll get like the really you'll get the real vibe of a Friday night jazz club, and then all of the musicians go there to jam when they get off their gigs or if they aren't working. So really good jam session too.
That's where Tariq's doing his Wednesday jams.
Yes.
Right.
And then so Burt's Marketplace, you got Cliff Bell's, you got Baker's Keyboard Lounge. You know, those are the three main places. If you want to hear some jazz vinyl, it's a spot called the Griot in Midtown. You can also hear albums. And then the music hall Jazz Cafe has jazz shows also.
You perform there a lot?
Yeah, I've been performing there a lot also. But those are some places.
What about Motor City Wine?
Motor City Wine on Wednesdays with Ian Finkelstein.
Ian's amazing. Check him out.
And then social media, join these groups. Detroit Jazz Heads, Angela Colon, she started that group. Marcus Watkins with Jazz R Us. Those are some good groups. In the Loop, Poetic Heaven,
I just joined that one.
yeah,
today.
Caesar Toriano. You know, he's responsible for starting that also. And then Energy in Motion. It's a lot of different groups and pages that you can go on, and you can keep up with jazz all day. Greater Detroit Jazz Society. We're staring at Ishmael's face.
He's in the zone.
He's in the zone.
Sorry,
The
babe.
spirit has hit him.
It's coming through him.
But that's some places to catch jazz. Any more questions before we start?
Yeah, jazz is life. Great perspective. Kamal said, "Jazz is Islam of all music, the seal. What do you think?" And the opener. Actually, that's another question that I wanted to touch on. Sophia said, or Sonia said, better than TV. It definitely is. The other thing I wanted to, because we were talking, whenever it was, a couple days ago or last week, and you were talking about how you didn't know necessarily about Islam, or you didn't know necessarily that your teachers, a lot of them were Muslim, but you knew their characters.
Right.
And that was something that drew you.
Right. It like going to your lessons and everything, you might see some Moroccan art or a Quran or Kufi, like, or just, and you would ask questions. And mind you, when I started studying with my teachers, a lot of them were in their 50s or 60s. And they were sharing stories with me about when they were younger, like strung out on heroin, or just wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like young and wild. So I was catching them at a point in their life where they had evolved and matured and everything. And a lot of them in the 60s and the 70s embraced Islam. It cleaned up a lot of the dope in the community, for one, because of the discipline and everything. And I think a lot of them could accept it because of the spiritual part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like cleaning yourself up physically, but spiritually. So I ended up finding out a lot of them had embraced Islam or had studied Islam at one time in the 60s or 70s. It kind of made sense, though, once you were around them and you really got to feel their spirit and everything.
Yeah.
So it was really not a hard transition for a lot of African American musicians to become Muslims, because really in the black community we were in the church really heavily, you know what I mean? And it was discipline in that, it was morals in that and everything. So it was really just expressing your spirituality in a different kind of way and everything. But yeah, I ended up finding out a lot of them were Muslim or just spirit musicians. The book, The Mysticism of Sound and Music, you ever heard that?
I've been reading it still.
Yeah.
I'm always going back to it.
That was on my teacher's piano for like 2 years. And
Patrice is on. Hey, Patrice.
Peace. What's up, Patrice? What's up, everybody?
John's on. Hey, John.
So eventually, I came to a lesson and he pulled the book out and started explaining the spiritual aspect in music and everything. I used to practice under a light bulb that was about this high, right above my head. And I never understood when I stood under it and practiced why it felt so good. Well, of course, reading the book and everything, you start finding out, you know, how light and electricity, affects your body. So we really dug into that book. I started learning about breathing and chanting and some of the stuff that Sufis do and everything.
That book is deep.
It is.
I started reading it. When did I start reading? Maybe 6 months ago?
After the first one.
Huh? After the first, maybe a year now. It's been a year. It smells like I got that book for you a year ago. I know, babe. I know. And I keep going back to it. I'm still only on chapter 3 or 4.
Okay.
Because every time I read it, I feel like there's so much information and it's so deep. I don't want to lose anything. So I'm doing maybe a page or 2 at a time. But I think the one thing that hits me the most is when it's by Hazrat Inayat Khan, who is an Indian saint. And he talks about just music and sound being the most divine art form because it doesn't have a physical form.
Right.
And that hit me because it's unfortunate that, at least in the Muslim community, and I don't want to make this specifically about Muslims, but just because it's our experience, that many people in the conservative community are really against music or really, look down upon those of us who are practicing and who play music and are in those spaces, but fail to realize that it's a divine practice.
Right.
And I think maybe it's because people are associating it when they think of music. Maybe they're just thinking about pop music, or they're thinking of clubs, or they're thinking about whatever it is that they're thinking about. But going to like all these venues that you're talking about, the jazz club or Baker's or Bert's, there's doesn't matter if you're religious or you're follow a faith tradition or not. There's still very spiritually grounded people and spiritually grounded musicians.
Right.
That are there playing.
True. You have to just do you. You know what I mean? I've experienced that throughout my career where people didn't like that I played music for religious reasons, just for personal reasons.
Yeah.
And usually when I talk to them, they really haven't experienced music other than what they hear on the radio or pop music. So it is a turn off if you just experience like, you know, a lot of negativity and everything. I think it boils down to the person and how well rounded and cultured they are. If they aren't, I guess we need to get them cultured, right?
Pass the tradition.
Pass the tradition.
Music is a form of meditation and spiritual practice all over the world, from Indian sitar to wooden drums. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Yep. That was, did you send that video to him? There's this video about this. There was like a jazz professor talking about how the origins of majority of our instruments here in the United States are all African. And he was showing how like African and Turkish. Like they had bass drums and they put tied rope, like a couple of ropes on the front, and that's basically what the snare drum is, you know, with the to create that sound. So it is very true. Post the title of that book. Okay. It's called
Mike said the title.
The
Mysticism of Sound.
The Mysticism of Sound and Music.
The Mysticism of Sound and Music.
I like how you're reading sideways.
I know, this is the last time I was like, oh, that's kind of awkward, but it's okay. Is there anything else that you want to just mention before you play something for us? Anything you just feeling or you want to just get off your chest?
What else am I feeling? I guess lately what I've been sharing, I really switched my energy and started sharing the side of me as a teacher and everything. Like if you look on my social media, you see a lot of stuff with me and my students. I wanted to get that message across that I'm a teacher as well, and also share with the community where they can find me if their children want to study music or be mentored. Other than that, working on a new CD.
I can't wait.
It's entitled "The Cloth I'm Cut From." Slow process, but steady. I actually have been talking about this project for a few years.
I need to tell you something, but I'm going to let you finish because it's not serious.
It's cool. So I've been on it for a few years, but actually did one studio session. Plan to be going back in the studio soon. That's about it.
I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Can I tell you what I was going to tell you?
Yes, because we're relaxed and on the camera.
There's a meme that said, guys be saying, I'm cut from a different cloth. And it's like, nah, you from a napkin. I saw that today. I saw that to Christina. We were dying. You guys are awesome. Girl, you are awesome. No, you are cut from, I can safely say, as someone who is a woman, for women in general, that I think you are cut from a different cloth.
Aww.
And it's a special cloth.
Look, I got background music.
You got...
Play it again. Hit the guitar chord.
That's that skill. But yeah, that skill is beautiful.
So look me up on social media, Mike Monford, MikeMonford. The first CD that's out right now is Perseverance. Download it. Help me make some money. Also, look out for a fundraiser. I've done a few of them for this CD. I think I'm going to do another one because I'm really short on the budget and everything. So look out for a fundraiser for The Cloth I'm Cut From. Look out for me and my students.
Yep.
Look
They're
out
great.
for
I love
Lou Fuki, Tazeen, Divine Providence.
He's definitely his on our album.
I plan on keeping it moving, keep on doing what I've been doing, music, family, community, and everything. And I feel optimistic. I feel good about myself.
Good. We have one last question.
What is the question?
We have 2 minutes remaining, so I'm gonna after this. Yes, Mike, and I love that you share that. How has teaching helped you gain better understanding of your own expression through music? You've got 1 minute to answer.
1 minute. It has helped me because it makes me look. It makes me look at myself and see how I can grow and help that young person grow while I'm still refining my thing.
I like that.
I'm a work in progress.
Sweet and simple.
What we're gonna do is play a song for you. I was trying to think of something. I think Coltrane is good.
Okay. If you want to play something else, play something
no,
else.
this is cool.
I'll listen.
We can play the Coltrane. Funny thing about Coltrane, he's one of my favorite saxophonists and people and spiritual giants. He made me want to play the sax, him and Charlie Parker. I looked at the album cover of Love Supreme over and over and over growing up. It was sticking on the front of the albums that my father no longer listened to at that time.
Yeah.
But he had John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. He had the trumpeter Lee Morgan, the Gigolo. And they both were Philadelphia people, which is another love of mine. But we'll talk about that later. That's where both of my parents are from. So it's a whole Detroit, Philly connection. But let's play some of Naima.
You want to bring the chair and sit here?
No.
What if we
You
don't hear
gonna
you?
hide back there?
Right back here.
Lil Fuki hiding in the back.
I'm going to try not to mess it up.
That's Naima, everybody, by John Coltrane. Peace, good night.
That's it? You don't want to play anything else? Who's on? My sister Krista's on.
That's some blues for y'all.
What did Christina say? Christina said something. Christina's clapping.
Thank you, Christina.
She is clapping.
So
Well,
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
Thank you, everyone who joined us. Thank you, Mike, for being on the show. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
And I will see you guys next Tuesday at 7. Next week, we've got Mahogany Jones is going to be with us. We're going to be talking about activism, what does it look like, and how are musicians activists. So a whole bunch of things that we're going to be talking about. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. Definitely spread the word. Share it with people. I've been, I feel really honored that people have been so supportive. So I hope it continues growing and we continue having deep, important conversations about these topics. So with that, peace. Good night.
Peace.